Hi guys, Freddy here. Welcome back to the third episode of The Path to a New Edition, where I'm covering over the D&D Next program. Back in 2012, Wizards of the Coast, while they were going from the fairly unsuccessful 4th edition to the mega successful 5th edition, were doing a program where they would get playtesters from the general community, and I was lucky enough to be one of those playtesters. So I got sent through 10 different packages of different variants of the rules over 2012-2013, where they were trying out new things and sometimes very radical different rules. But this is the third package. I've already covered the first two packages that they sent out, and this is the October 8th, 2012 package. Now, this one differs from the first two, whereas the first one was a very stripped down pack where they didn't have character creation, they had some sample characters, they had the rules, and they wanted you to go over that. The second edition was a more fully fleshed out version where they had full character creation, they had a bestiary, they had lots of stuff, although they didn't include adventures in that one. Well, this one, they've included the adventures again, but a large number of elements are exactly the same as in the last package. So obviously I won't go over those, but I will go over those which they changed. And the strange thing is that although this was October, some of these changes were dated only days after the first package went out, so they must have had some very quick feedback on things they didn't like. But let's go over to the computer desktop and have a look at the third package. So this is the third D&D package, the October 8th playtest package. And as we can see, it comes with a packet summary, as did the last one. Now, it briefly goes through using this playtest package, and if you're the Dungeon Master, you should read. Basically, these are the same, but we've got some general updates here. Experience point values, the XP values for monsters, as well as the instructions for encounter building and the DM guidelines have been updated. Magic items. This playtest package supplies guidelines for awarding magic items, as well as dozens of sample items. Please note the magic items document contains a few items of common rarity. More items will be available in future playtest release. The monsters and the bestiary have undergone some refinement. A number of new traits have been added. And Caves of Chaos. This adventure has been updated to reflect the addition to the magic item document and the revisions to monsters. So, really, the adventure which was given away with the first package has been updated slightly to reflect the evolving rules. But other than that, there are just some minor changes. And this is perhaps most visible by the fact that out of the base packages, the base files, there is no update to the race one. That's still the same as the last. There's no update to the backgrounds, and there's no update to the specialties. They always remain exactly the same. And the classes file here is only updated only 4 days after the last package, which becomes clear as soon as we start to look through it, because Cleric here is identical to as it was before. Fighter, the same. Rogue, exactly the same. Wizard, exactly the same. However, we come on to Classes Part 2, where we include 2 new classes to the playtest. We've got the Sorcerer and the Warlock. Now, I'm not really familiar with Sorcerers and Warlocks, although I've had some players play Sorcerers. I've never actually played in a party with a Warlock in it. And I've never played a Sorcerer myself, so I'm not that familiar with them. But looking through, they look fairly familiar to the version of the rules, the 5th edition rules, except I did notice the Sorcerer's powers here. Now, Sorcerers gain various abilities for their backgrounds, especially if they're of a dragon type. And we've got here Dragon Scales and Dragon Strength, which aren't in the rulebook as published. And I can see why. Dragon Scales, before you take damage, it is reduced by 10. If you have the Dragonic Heritage class feature, you also gain resistance to the damage type determined by your type of dragon. The resistance lasts until the end of your next turn. So you can activate that whenever you're hit and basically reduce any attack by 10 points of damage. And you've got Dragon Strength. You channel the ancient strength of the dragon, causing you to deal heavy damage. The next time you hit a hostile creature with a melee attack, during the next minute, that creature takes an extra 2d6 damage. Now, that is a lot of damage for a wizard type to do when hitting in melee. I can see this being a nice little combination to take a level or so of sorcerer in with a fighter type. So I can see why these were dropped, because they're not very magical abilities. We've got the Warlock here, which is very much in line with the other ones in the playtest package. So we've got various bonuses for magic attacks, weapons attacks as standard. The ritual magic, Warlock spells. There's not much in there. In the DM guidelines, there's not a lot changed. The rules are very, very similar. There's really only, as we get down to the experience section, which is really quite late here, experience points, and it gives you an idea and treasure. So there's an update towards the end of this document. We've got the magic items, which just lists lots of magic items to use. They are sort of balanced towards this version. I've no idea, without reading through each one, exactly what they do, but they look very familiar to what I've seen before. And then we've got the bestiary. Well, in the last one, I looked at the drow, so I'll flick on a couple of pages. And I noted that the drow had their dark fire ability, which in every other version of Dungeons & Dragons had been fairy fire. Well, it's back to being fairy fire. Once per day, we have fairy fire. And apart from that, these look very familiar. They've got slightly different experience awards, but nothing much has changed. And then we're on to the adventures. Well, we've got the Caves of Chaos, which has been updated reflecting all these rules. And it's the same adventure as given away in the first one, but there's different treasure now and there's some different monsters put in. But basically, there's nothing much changed, even down to the same map at the end. And we have another adventure, which is dated just 4 days after the last package. So they obviously actually meant to include this in the last one. I did comment the fact that there was no adventures in the last package at all, which was a bit odd, because you're wanting people to playtest it, and then, well, write your own adventure. Not a great way. But Reclaiming Blingden Stone is a fantastic adventure for playtesting, because it's a series of 6 short adventures. So lots of chances to dip in, level up, go through all that process. Fantastic. Perfect for this thing. Reclaiming Blingden Stone is about heading to an underdark city which was abandoned by the deep gnomes, the Sverneblin. It's really close to Menzoberranzan, so hooked into the Drist books. But it's a fairly standard set of adventures. There's lots of encounters, lots of locations. There's a few maps in here which are very nicely done. We're getting into more modern types of Dungeons & Dragons here. But without playing it, I can't comment. The monsters are included in here instead of referring back to the bestiary, which is nice. And a few more maps at the end, and a lovely picture of a goblin of some type, which I'm going to use in the thumbnail for this video. But that's the only changes in the third package. There's just minor updates. They haven't introduced anything much new, and they just rolled out some more classes to start playtesting them, which I imagine is going to go on as we continue. But anyway, I think I've whittled on for quite long enough, so thank you very, very much for watching. And as always, you look after yourselves. And I'll catch you in the next video, hopefully. Bye now.